Hello everyone, and this is Harsh, and I'm back with a new video with the exploration of education in Ontario alongside with its datasets. So today we're going to discuss briefly on a brief introduction about myself and the topic that I've selected, that is education today, and research questions, dataset cleaning, visualization, conclusion. So let's begin. What is education? First of all, it's a process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, value, morals, beliefs, and habits. Educational methods include teaching, training, storytelling, discussion, and direct research. Education frequently takes place under the guidance of educators. However, learners can also educate themselves through e-learning or other ways like reading books and such. So in Canada, we have a certain process of education which begins at early years of learning. Then you're sent to elementary school, and once you finish elementary school you go to high school, and after finishing high school you go to your post-secondary graduation, that is a college to do a diploma or a bachelor's, of which there is a learning cycle you have to remember. That means listening, exploring, discovering, appropriating, and assuming responsibility. This cycle is a continuous cycle that never ends. It's a infinite loop. So the research questions today will be: what are the gender of students in Ontario schools, suspension rates in Ontario schools, and expansion rates of students in Ontario. The data variables that I took will be board number and board name, school number, school name, type, level, and language. Languages, there are just two major languages in Canada, that is French and English speaking schools. So enrollment by grade is also there, and there are two types of schools: the elementary, secondary, which are public or Catholic or private. So there are three types of them, but in this data set we're going to look at only two, that is public and Catholic. So under Excels we'll have to get the data set, clean, and visualize. These are three steps that we need to consider when we will be performing our research. Like, for example, a gender chart interpretation, which shows which school had the lowest gender of either male or female admissions in schools. And as here we can confirm that Kawartha Pine Ridge School has the lowest, and Moss Factory Island had the highest number of admissions by gender, of which we can see some of secondary female and some of secondary male, that is males in secondary schools. And we can also see female number of elementary schools admission that are there, and the male candidates in elementary school as well. Here the dataset proves that there are almost more than 700,000 students in Toronto area as a combination of all, that is elementary male and female and secondary male and female. And we come to the part of suspension. What does suspension mean? Well, suspension means students are removed from school temporarily for a specific period of time. Students may be suspended for a period of time ranging from 1 school day up to 20 school days. Students cannot go to school or take part in regular school activities or events while on suspension or under suspension. And as per these charts, we can see that Peterborough has the highest number of suspension rates in Ontario. Under Jupyter Notebooks, we'll have to do cleaning and filling of none values. So here are some of the codes in that I used to fill the null values and clean the data before visualizing it. Here I visualized the same data set that I showed you previously for enrollment by grade and by gender. So here is a chart that shows how many students are where, and we can see the number of female and male both are equal. This is the second visualization that shows a scatter plot and a future correlation matrix. Now for the interactive dashboards. I used Tableau for this purpose and I created this dashboard to visualize my data. And here is the data visualized in Tableau, where we can just click on it and it shows you, for example, Toronto board name Toronto DSP has 84,620 students, and male students are 89,740. And below it we have the same data that shows which school teaches what language as well. Like, for example, Anglo Queen and Lakeshore CDSP is a Catholic school and it's an English speaking school with enrollment number of 3,915 female and 4,070 students male. With the highest number of students that are available in Peel DSP. It's an English speaking school, a public school. It's not a Catholic school, and it has a suspension rate that is higher than other schools, that is 3,101 for the year 2017 to 2018. And here is the second dashboard that visualizes expulsion of the year 2016 to 2017 and the year 2015 to 2016. And by the data that is visualized here, we can see like in 2015 and 2016 the highest number of suspensions were done in Toronto CDSP, and again when it comes to 2016 to 2017 the highest number of suspensions were also done in Trillium Lakelands, and Toronto DSP had less suspension rates. That means there were some changes that were made by the school over there. We can try changing our dataset palette, color palette or something by just simply clicking here and saying enter. I think we'll head next to our Jupyter notebook now. Here is how I loaded the datasets, cleaned the NAR values, and started my visualization on Plotly and Matplot library. So this is the bar container that I created. Then a scatter plot, a box plot visualization, a histogram visualization that only shows secondary male students. Then I have a plot library that shows enrollment by gender. Here are the statistics. Next comes the numpys and matplotlib. Here's a scatter plot and a feature correlation matrix. We can add up more extensions to this by clicking here, and here are some of the examples that we could use for our projects, and you can just say create or choose since you have a data set connected to it, and you can just click on it and say import and it will work. So now we head up to conclusions of the education data sets and the questions that we created. On slide 5, that was what are the gender of students in Ontario, suspension rates in Ontario, and expulsion rates in Ontario. So based on the data that was provided, and after concluding, I will say yes, that there is a significant amount of people that have actually been admitted in new schools. The expulsion rate has changed, and more students have been expelled from other schools compared to previous years, that is 2015-2016. So there is an increase in expulsion rate and suspension rates as well. I will show you guys now how I linked the data sets or the different data sets I had. So I've used 4 data sets for this project, and this is how I joined it. There it is. Had the main data set, then loaded each by board expulsion dataset, then suspension dataset, and the gender dataset. And the common factors that were there, for example, you can say edit. Here one of the common variables that were same, like board name and board number. So I used board number since it's a unique ID and it's much easier when it comes to joining different tables together. So here's an example, a drag and drop mechanism for board expulsion and enrollment by gender. We can see it has joined both the tables, that is dataset 1 and 2, and you can actually click on it and see and select which kind of joining you want. Like for example, from board name you can use board number. It's much preferable. And you can just say click and just go directly to visualization after pressing enter or clicking on the sides. So we can wrap up by saying increase of expulsion and suspension has been seen with the data set and the visualization, and equivalently there was a significant increase in enrollment of new candidates, both men and female. Here are some of the links that I'll provide for the dataset and that. There will be a YouTube link here and a portfolio link. So thank you everybody, keep safe, and see you again soon.